Hebrews 8. Now, the summary of what we are saying is we have such a high priest who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the greatness in the heavens. Right? So the point of everything that has been said till this point, till this chapter, is that we have such a high priest who is seated at the right hand of the throne of the greatness in the heavens, and who serves in the set apart place and of the true tent, which Yahweh set up and not man. Right? Remember that the Mishkan, the Ohel Moed, or the tent of reunion, was a model, was something that they built according to the model shown to Moshe. So itself was a model, was a representation of something higher. As it says here, and who serves in the set apart place and of the true tent which Yahweh set up and not man. For every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and slaughters. So it was also necessary for this one to have somewhat to offer. I repeat, for every high priest is appointed to offer both gifts and slaughters. So it was also necessary for this one to have somewhat to offer. For if indeed he were on earth, he would not be a priest, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the Torah, who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly. There you go, what I just mentioned regarding the tent. Everything that was given to the Levites, everything that was performed in the temple, everything that was interpreted from the letter without the spirit, all of that was a copy, was a shadow, was a representation of something higher. Who serve, I'll repeat from the fourth. For if indeed here he were on earth, if indeed he were on earth, he would not be a priest, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the Torah. Right? He was not a priest according to the earthly ways, according to that which is just a copy. He was the real deal. He was the true manifestation. And that's why that which is earthly rejected him and killed him. They couldn't accept him because he was different than what they saw as real. However, that which they had was just a copy. For if indeed he were on earth, he would not be a priest, since there are priests who offer the gifts according to the Torah, who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly, as Moshe was warned when he was about to make the tent. For he said, see that you make all according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. The pattern. So he was shown the pattern. He was not shown the reality. He was not shown the true end of things. He was shown the representation of things. That's why they build the temple, they worship the temple, and Yahushua said, destroy the temple, and I will raise it up in 3 days, because he was talking about his body. So he says, who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly. This is very important, because when we understand that, then it becomes easier to comprehend the scriptures. Who serve a copy and shadow of the heavenly, as Moshe was warned when he was about to make the tent. For he said, see that you make all according to the pattern shown you on the mountain. Exodus 25:40. Let's just read it real quick. So see and do according to the pattern which was shown to you on the mountain. Once again, a pattern. But now he has obtained a more excellent service, inasmuch as he is also mediator of a better covenant. Here we see that it says Messiah is called the mediator of the new covenant. In Hebrews, in 3 places, Hebrews 8:6, Hebrews 9:15, and Hebrews 12:24. So this is the first time. And remember that Moshe was used also as a mediator to bring the letter. Yahweh is one, Moshe is one, but there were at least two angels in the giving of the Torah, according to what we see in Galatians. Here, Yahushua became the mediator of a better covenant than that of the letter, which is obviously that of the spirit. That's why Yahushua told the woman in John 4, the hour is coming and now is when the true worshipers will worship Yahweh in spirit and in truth. So that means that before Mashiach, they were worshiping in flesh and falsehood because of the letter and their wrong interpretations. So it says, but now he has obtained a more excellent service, inasmuch as he is also mediator of a better covenant, which was constituted on better promises. Right? The Torah condemns. The new covenant forgives, gives life eternal, which was constituted on better promises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then no place would have been sought for a second. This verse is huge to keep in mind. And once again, one of those things that obviously Jewish people will reject and will not want to even read or hear. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then no place would have been sought for a second. Right? So that means the first covenant was faulty in the sense that it could not save us. It could not give us the promises mentioned to Abraham and others throughout the law, throughout the Torah, the first 5 books. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then no place would have been sought for a second. For finding fault with them, he says, see, the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I shall conclude with the house of Israel and with the house of Yahudah a renewed covenant, right? As we see in the book of Yirmiyahu. As you see there, Yirmiyahu 31. So that's where he promises the new covenant during the time of the prophets. So before the Messiah came, Yahweh was already saying, I'm going to have to give you a new covenant. Why? Because due to sin, due to the flesh, due to the inclination to evil, etc., that old covenant cannot save you. Instead, it can only condemn you. For finding fault with them, right? And you see how it says with them, not with the Torah, because the fault is within us, in the flesh, in our actions. The Torah is perfect, but it cannot save he who is imperfect. So the perfect one came through his obedience to the Father, through suffering, became perfect in order to be able to give us perfection through the new covenant that can actually make us perfect, complete. For finding fault with them, he says, see, the days are coming, says Yahweh, when I shall conclude with the house of Israel and with the house of Yahudah a renewed covenant, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mizraim, because they did not continue in my covenant, and I disregarded them, says Yahweh. As we see in the book of Amos 5:26, the people ended up rejecting Yahweh and worshiping Moloch and Kium, Jupiter and Saturn, Samael and Halel, throughout the 40 years in the desert, through the golden calf. through their murmuring, through Nehushtan, the serpent made of brass, etc. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Mizraim, because they did not continue in my covenant, and I disregarded them, says Yahweh. Because this is the covenant that I shall make with the house of Israel after those days, says Yahweh, giving my laws in their mind, and I shall write them on their hearts. Right through the first and last, he would make us anew. He would give us a new body, a new mind, to bring all thoughts to the obedience of Mashiach. Giving my laws in their mind, and I shall write them on their hearts. And I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And they shall by no means teach each one his neighbor, and each one his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, because they all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them. This is wonderful. During the millennium and after, the new earth and the new heavens, the knowledge of Yahweh will cover the earth like the water covers the sea. The knowledge of Yahweh will be everywhere. It will be clear. As you guys know, he contracted his light in order to create time and space. But now that space, he's going to fill it with his light, and therefore he will be known by all his creation. So in that time, there will be no need for us to teach others of the existence of he who causes existence. We won't have a need to go and tell others that the Almighty is the creator, that Yahweh is the one who causes to exist, that he is the one who gives us all good things, that he has a purpose for every person that he created, etc. It won't be necessary, because everybody who will be there will know. And they shall by no means teach each one his neighbor and each one his brother, saying, Know Yahweh, because they all shall know me, from the least of them to the greatest of them. Because I shall forgive their unrighteousness. So since he forgives our unrighteousness, we're able to see him. We're able to get close to him, and then we're able to know him. Because I shall forgive their unrighteousness and their sins and their lawlessness. I shall no longer remember. You see how it mentions three things: unrighteousness, sins, and lawlessness. Well, lawlessnesses, which is what we also see in Daniel 9, when it speaks of the sacrifice of Mashiach, the sacrifice of the two witnesses, Eliyahu and the witness like Moshe. Three deaths that are necessary to bring those three things, according to the perfection of the Father, the testimony of the witnesses. Their death and resurrection is all fulfilled thanks to Yahushua and his sacrifice. Want to make that clear. But once Yahushua was sacrificed and offered forgiveness, then the two witnesses are able to also be sacrificed to bring more power to that first sacrifice, if we want to put it some way. And that's why I mentioned here the three things. Because I shall forgive their unrighteousness and their sins and their lawlessnesses, I shall no longer remember. So he will forget about everything that we've done through what Yahushua did and through our belief, and obviously also the works that we do according to that belief. By saying renewed, he has made the first old, right? That's why we call it old covenant, because when he mentioned something that was new, then that which was became old. By saying renewed, he has made the first old. Now what becomes old and growing aged in sorry. Now what becomes old and growing age is near disappearing, right? That is something that we see in this reality of time. When something becomes old, it will eventually disappear. So when Yahweh made the covenant old, then that made it so that it will disappear. That shows us that it won't last for the next world. The renewed one is the one that will be for the new heavens and the new earth, that true understanding of the covenant, of the Torah. So by saying renewed, he has made the first old. Now what becomes old and growing age is near disappearing. I repeat, so by calling the new covenant new, he made the other old, and therefore it will disappear, like everything in this reality that becomes old. And that's how the chapter ends.